Wolfe Brennan in the morning.
And hello, welcome to our first episode of Wolfe Brennan in the morning. I am Wolf, and this is my co-host Brennan.
Hello.
So basically, this show, it's about Community. Well, it's not about Community. It's us reviewing each episode of Community one by one and just giving our our opinions on it, what we think works in each episode, what doesn't. But we have some other fun stuff that we like to do too. So we should probably introduce who we are first, though, right, Brendan?
Yes, good idea.
Okay. So, of course, like I said, I'm Wolf. I'll just say where I first found the show, I think. So how I got into Community, I don't remember exactly when, but I remember it was around 2020, and I believe because I'd watched The Office twice at that point, and Parks and Rec, and I think at that point I had watched this other sitcom, My Name is Earl. You probably haven't heard of it, Brennan. Maybe some of our listeners have, but who knows?
Yeah.
I was looking for something new because I had seen those sitcoms already, and I remember hearing people talk about funny scenes from Community, and of course we've all seen Chang call things gay before, like that meme.
Yep. Yeah, and the tiny little cheat sheet gif, that one's great.
Yes, it's a tiny piece of paper. But also, of course, the infamous Troy meme where he's bringing in the pizza and everything's just on fire.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great scene.
Yeah, and funny enough, so where I was living on campus at the time, it had a shared Hulu account for the whole building, and it didn't have many other options that looked good, so I figured, oh, well, I'll just watch Community then. I've already finished all of The Simpsons, so I might as well move on to this. Check it out, and I think I've watched it maybe 4 or 5 times since. Those last 3 or 4 have been within the last year.
Yeah, it is a very bingeable show. And rewatchable.
Oh, absolutely. And it holds up very well, in my opinion.
It does.
Although,
every time you rewatch it, you notice something new.
Yes. Although I do think I'm biased because I do think it is the best TV show out there. So.
I would agree with you. It is one of, if not my favorite.
I would say it is my solid favorite right now.
Nice.
That does change, but it's always one of my favorites.
Yes. Yeah. So, like we said, I'm Brennan. I first discovered the show with my siblings, actually, back in, 2013 or so.
So it was still on the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But then we just, forgot about it. And so I rediscovered it about 2 months ago on Netflix and binged the entire show in a week. And am currently on my second rewatch through for this podcast, actually. So, and then I believe my small group is going to be getting together and watching that as well. So I'll be rewatching it multiple times at once.
That's awesome. And actually, you're getting your small group in on it, and I've actually gotten a few different friends to watch Community because of how much I've talked about it, how much I've liked it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, only one of them has actually finished the whole show that I know of. Mm-hmm. The other guy I introduced it to, I think he started a few episodes, but he lost access to Hulu, I think, and just hasn't asked for it again. He also doesn't watch a lot of TV.
Okay.
I think he prefers to read about plots and see clips on YouTube for some reason.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Not my thing, but good for him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I actually introduced it to my girlfriend, and she's my girlfriend has Community on in the background and doesn't pay as much attention to it. Mm-hmm. But one day I'll sit her down and have her actually watch the episodes because they are so good. But she does enjoy it. She enjoys what she watches. It just happens to be she more listens to it than actually engages in and watches it. But that's okay.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
Yeah. I mean, I do that with shows I've seen before. So as I have to sit down and watch it once, and then I can just kind of put it on in the background and listen to it while I'm doing something else. When I was driving to see my sister at college a few weeks ago, I just put on The Last Airbender and minimized it so it wasn't it was in the mini player, and then swiped to the side so I couldn't see it. Had my GPS up, just listened to Last Airbender the whole way there. Could see it in my head.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it's a great way to pass the time when you got nothing else to do.
And that's what I am doing with Rebels at the moment, actually. So I'm working on just digital art stuff on one computer monitor, and then on the other I have Rebels, and I'm more listening to it than actually watching it, of course, because I'm working on digital art on the other screen. So I guess that's a good transition into like
Yeah.
kind of more about both of us. So if you
Yeah.
can't tell already, we're big fucking nerds.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, like Star Wars is a huge bonding point between me
Yep.
and Brennan. We have some other shared things as well that
Yeah.
we bond over
Yep.
that are nerdy, and then we have kind of our own things that we nerd out about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're really big nerds. I'll explain how we met too. So we were actually
Yes.
working at a summer camp in the Midwest, almost 5 years ago now.
Yeah, 2019 was my first year.
That was my first year
Yeah.
working too
Yeah.
there, and I had been there like as a camper before, and that's why I wanted to go work there. And then of course, you were also working there. We were able to
Yeah.
bond over.
I think we met over Star Wars, I think.
I think so. Well, I remember you did like your magic tricks and stuff, and I was
Yes.
like, okay,
Yeah.
this guy seems cool. I got to go sit by him.
Yeah, it was I think I heard you and it may have been our other friend Blake that were talking something Star Wars, and I just kind of wormed my way over.
That could be. It could
I
be.
think, like we said, it's been a long time since we met.
Or was it Zach? Maybe.
It could have been Zach. Yeah.
Yeah, because you, Zach, and Andrew were like some of the first guys I met, besides
Yeah.
like my supervisors.
Yeah. So, for the audience, we were not on the same team at the camp. It was a big camp where it had different age groups, but during the weekends and off hours, the counselors were able to mingle with the other counselor age groups. So that's how Wolf and I met.
Well, we thought we were in the same age group because I was assigned to middle school and you
Yep.
thought you were assigned to middle school, but they were like, oh no, you're actually with the elementary schoolers.
Yeah, they put me with elementary schoolers overnight, and that was a disaster. Very, very little sleep that week, I believe. I think I transferred to 4th through 6th grade pretty quickly.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think by the third week of camp, I was 4th through 6th grade.
Yeah, well, because the second week, all the Michigan staff came down.
Yeah.
So then you got to be, so I think after your first week, you got to be at the upper elementary
Yeah.
for a couple weeks. Then they sent you back down.
Yeah, they sent me back down, which sucked. The kids were great. There was a lot of funny moments, great conversation, as much as you can have conversation with 1st and 3rd graders. But some very good memories there. Just very, very little sleep with homeschool camper or homesick campers.
Yeah. I mean, there was just little sleep in general, especially whenever I moved up to the high schoolers in a later summer. They barely gave us any time to sleep. Like, we had the latest bedtime and like the earliest wake up time in the whole camp. Everyone else got like 10 hours maybe. We got 8 if we could get the campers to bed on time.
Yeah.
Like, to get them asleep and undistracted.
Yeah.
And get them like up and going on time. Like, so there's just very little sleep in general.
Yeah.
I think that's just camp life, you know.
Yeah. I think like with Ignite or 4th through 6th grade, we had 11 p.m. bedtime and then 7 a.m. wake up time.
Oh,
But
jeez.
yeah, but my cabin was, if they behaved during the week, most of the time we didn't go to bed till midnight or so.
Jeez.
The way I got my campers to behave throughout the week is I bribed them. I had these Ultra Saber lightsabers, and basically I told them if they behaved, like if they can goof off and have fun, but as long as they're behaving, they get to play with lightsabers that night. So most times we didn't go to bed till 12, 1. So that part was on me, but they loved it, so I was willing to lose the sleep for that, you know?
Yeah. And that's another tell that we're huge nerds. Like, you brought your lightsabers to camp.
I had that. I had the Spider-Man costume that I wore on Wacky Wednesday.
I forgot about the Spider-Man costume.
Yeah. I remember my last summer. So everyone has 2-hour breaks. All the counselors have 2-hour breaks. And so the last summer, I was a counselor, but I was also a lifeguard and target sports person. So I was the only person in our team that could run those 2 activities. So the only activity block where I was free for my breaks was during HIAD, which was the rock wall, zip line, those kind of things. I would take time off of my break to go to the rock wall on Wednesday wearing the Spider-Man costume and climb the wall for the kids, and they loved it. They thought it was hilarious. I had one kid who like somehow got into my phone and started playing the Spider-Man theme song as I went up the wall. That was funny. I don't know how he got into it because we didn't have our phones out.
How do I not remember you doing that? Like, I feel like that would be something that sticks out so much.
It was my last summer, so you were in high school, and I was in 4th or 6th grade.
That's right. So
it was 2021.
Our activities never would have lined up.
Yeah. I think the only time it lined up when my group was doing the blobs and you guys went by on the tram.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Anyways, that's enough about camp. We're going to be talking about camp a lot. If you can't tell, we loved that place.
Oh, yeah.
Still do.
Fantastic. There's so many great memories there.
Absolutely.
But that's where we met, and of course we've been like hanging out on and off because we don't live in the same state. We're both from like the Midwest region, but...
Yes. I have moved down to the southern area, but I was born in the Midwest region. Yeah.
Okay, so do we want to do an Old White Man Says?
Yeah, let's do it. So, in the show, there is a part where two of the characters live together, one of those characters being Pierce, who is an old white man who is very politically incorrect. And so I work at a nursing home facility. That's as much as I can say due to HIPAA regulations and all that. But I have permission from my workplace to tell stories that I experience. So we will be having Old White Man Does. So in this segment, like I said, I tell stories of weird things that happened at work. And if I don't have any stories, Wolfe said that he has a grandfather who he can take some stories from.
And I've not asked him permission. I'm just going to tell him.
Yeah. So for today's Old White Man Does, this actually happened Monday. We get a work order saying that a phone isn't working, which is pretty common. I believe this resident had an iPhone. And I walk in, ask this resident what is wrong, and they say that their screen is upside down. The resident is holding her phone upside down and is trying to swipe up, and it's not working. So I took the phone from her, trying my hardest not to laugh, pretended to click a few buttons, and then just gave it back to her all fixed.
I had a feeling I knew where that was going. As soon as you said, my screen's upside down, I'm like, they're not holding it right side up, are they?
No, they were not. So, yeah, it's very entertaining.
Yes.
I'm never bored at this place. It's very entertaining.
That's awesome. Yeah, so just to clarify, too, I don't know if Brennan said this, but on the show, they have a Twitter account called Old White Man Says, saying the things that Pierce, does or says. And so that's why we called it Old White Man Says or Old White Man Does, because it's based on a bit from the show. This isn't just some random thing we're doing just to
it's
pass
also
the time.
A real thing. The showrunners actually created Old White Man Says on Twitter. It's still there if you want to go look it up on, what is it called now, X?
Yeah, I have looked it up on X before, and it is amazing. Just after rewatching that episode a few months back, I was curious and looked up Old White Man Says, and there it was.
Yep.
The actual Twitter account for Old White Man Says, with posts from 2010, when that season was airing.
Apparently they had a website and everything that was directly related to the show. They've since taken the website down, but I've been recently listening to The Darkest Timeline, it's a podcast run by Ken Jeong and Joel McHale, who played Chang and Jeff in the show. It's came out during COVID times, so the first hour they talk about COVID, then the second half they talk about Community. I've been listening to that while I've been at work, and so I've got a lot of background knowledge that I didn't know before, which I'm excited to share.
Yes, and the DVD collections, which mine arrived today. Brennan's copy got delayed for some dumb reason.
Walmart it wasn't even delayed. They just canceled it and texted me, "Hey, we're canceling your order because it's going to be delayed."
That's weird. Yeah. I've never had Walmart do that for me.
So I just ordered a new one, and hopefully that one gets here. We'll see.
Yeah. But that has a lot of commentary and bonus features, deleted scenes.
Sweet.
And I tried to actually go and see the bonus features for the episode we're doing today, the pilot, of course, because we got to start at the beginning. But when I tried to put it in my Xbox 360, the one console that I have at my apartment that can play a DVD, the disc tray stopped working.
Oh.
So now I have nothing that plays a DVD. Like, my laptop doesn't have a DVD drive. Ooh. My desktop doesn't have a DVD drive. And my only other two consoles here are the Wii U. They don't... DVDs aren't compatible with them. Nintendo Switch doesn't have a disc drive because it uses cartridges. And the GameCube, well, it's too small a disc for a DVD to fit.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'll probably just have to get, like, a portable DVD drive, plug it into one of my computers, and watch the stuff that way. But anyway, as I was saying, so today we're going to be going through the pilot. Just so for those that don't remember, this is where the study group meets for the first time. And this is when Jeff Winger, who is like, I don't know, what do you call him the main character? Because like I feel like the whole study group is the main character.
I think he started out as the main character, and then it just kind of morphed into the whole study group being the main character.
Yeah, like it's an ensemble cast, so you can't really say like he's definitely like the leader of the group.
He was.
I wouldn't say he's like,
he was the lead role. I remember them talking about that in the podcast that I listened to.
Yeah. So anyway, so Jeff Winger, he's a lawyer who got disbarred for having a fake bachelor's degree, and so now he's back at community college trying to get a real one and putting in as little effort as possible to get that real degree.
Yes, very much so.
And so basically in this episode, he's talking to another character in the class, Abed, who's a little bit quirky, definitely a little different. And then he's like, hey, like, what's the deal with this, like, blonde from Spanish class? Because he, Abed, and this blonde, which we'll later learn is Britta, they all are in the same Spanish class. And so in an effort to get closer to her, he invents a fake study group and lies about being a licensed tutor in order to get into her pants, pretty much. And so the rest of the episode just continues with, like, him trying to wiggle his way out of doing work at school, trying to get test answers from his professor friend, Ian Duncan, who is played by John Oliver, who most people, I think, would be familiar with, especially if you're a fan of the show Community, which, in that case, like, you're probably just rolling your eyes at me giving this, like, recap, because you've seen this episode many times, or even once. But anyway, so the episode plays out. He makes his study group. Abed shows up. He leaves the room. Abed comes back with other classmates of theirs. And Jeff realizes, oh, the test answers that I was given were fake. And I did forget to mention, Britta did kick him out of his own study group at this point.
Yes.
And then whenever like they tried to study without him, it was too boring, so they come back. And then you have a community, as Jeff Winger declared.
Yep. It was a amazing pilot. Very few pilots make me laugh in the first minute. And the dean's speech managed to make me laugh right off the bat. That was...
Yes.
It doesn't only set the mood for his character, but it kind of sets the mood for the entire show. It does a great job.
Yes, and what I think is great about his speech, too, at the beginning, is that it already, like you said, it sets up his character well, and it shows his insecurity about the school already. Yes. Like the fact that he's a dean at a community college instead of a real school. And you can see this in how he describes, like, yeah, you've heard that community colleges are for high school dropouts, old people, middle-aged divorcees, and you actually see, like, when he does that part, like, the camera shows each member of the study group, besides Jeff and Abed. Yeah. Those are the only two out, but it shows everyone else that is a part of the study group.
Yeah. It's a great intro for an amazing show.
Yes, and here's my thing. With most sitcoms, it does take 2 or 3 episodes for me to decide if I want to keep watching or not. Like, I'm not always sure at first. Like, the pilot, usually I'll think, like, okay, like, this is good. Maybe I'll keep going.
Yeah.
And then after the 2nd or 3rd episode, that's when I'm like, yeah, I'm in for the long haul with this one.
Yeah.
And Community's pilot was different. It, like you said, it hooked me from the beginning, and I was ready to see where these characters would go. There's only one other show that I've had that reaction to, and I know, Brennan, you haven't seen it, or maybe you've seen clips, I don't know, but The Boys was the only other show that's gotten me hooked on the first episode.
Yeah, I've seen clips. I have yet to watch that show, but it's on my list at some point.
Nice. Maybe we'll do a podcast for that.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, so back to Community, and that the other aspect too, like, I also went to a community college for a year. And I was just kind of curious to see how it differed from my experiences at my community college. And spoiler alert, the differences were vast. Like, my community college was very boring, and I pretty much just went to class, did homework, and that was it.
So you're telling me paintball isn't a yearly thing at community colleges?
No, it's not. I wish.
Aw, dang. That's extremely unfortunate.
It is. Although I feel like these days it'd be kind of in poor taste to have paintball in a school.
Yeah, especially these days, yeah. If this show came out today, most of the stuff in it I don't think would have been allowed.
Oh, Dan Harmon, like the creator of Community, has even said that the paintball episodes, if they were made now, would be in poor taste, and he would not be doing paintball episodes, just with today's context. Which is fair, I think.
Yeah, it's fair, yeah. Unfortunately, that's the reality we live in.
Yep. But enough about reality. Let's go back.
Yes. The whole reason for TV shows is to escape reality. So.
Yes.
Abed and I agree on that. So.
I think we could go through, like, the episode, just, like, different things that we found worked well, things we like, dislike.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, one interesting thing that, like, I've already mentioned the dean's speech setting the mood for the entire show and his character. But, so, for those of you who did not pay attention in Spanish class, like myself, when Jeff starts his study group and invites Britta, and she says, "Can you say that in Spanish?" And he says something in Spanish. It's gibberish. It's not actually a sentence. But I went back and, like, kind of translated that. And basically his response is, "I sleep late Spanish. 1 more hour. Do not scratch my car." Which is great because he's supposed to be saying that he's a board-certified tutor.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is, like, whenever I watch Community on Hulu, they have that in the subtitles.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. I'll have to check.
Yeah. I think it depends on the line, but there are several that are in Spanish that they have the subtitles for. And maybe that's because, like, the weird thing with the pilot is there's 2 versions. Like, there's 2 cuts. Mm-hmm. There's the syndicate cut, which is what originally aired. That's what Netflix had. Now that they don't have it anymore because they just got rid of it a few days ago. We're recording this on April 3rd, so it's literally the 3rd day that Community has not been on Netflix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's also on Amazon Prime, although you have to pay per season or per episode on there.
Yeah. It's on Peacock as well.
Yes, it's on Peacock, and I believe that Peacock has the DVD version, which has 3 extra minutes, and the Hulu version is the same way, 3 extra minutes. It's that same cut, and there's some differences between the episodes. Yeah, I think one of them is, like, part of Ian Duncan's Chalupa's joke is cut off. I think there's some, like, moments that are tightened up. I don't know if the cafeteria lady appears in the TV cut.
I don't think she does.
The one who, like, asks Jeff to pay for his damn tacos.
Oh, yeah. So, Peacock has the TV version then, because I watched that and I didn't say that part.
Oh, come on, Peacock.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So Peacock has the TV version, not the DVD version.
That's disappointing. But yeah, so there's that scene. Yeah. Abed's introduction I thought was fantastic whenever he's talking with Jeff.
Absolutely. For audiences or listeners who haven't seen the show, by the end of the episode, it is revealed that Abed has Asperger's, which is, as of today, no longer a thing. It's now part of the autism spectrum. But I personally was diagnosed with Asperger's as well growing up. I think I was diagnosed at age 5. And, like, so I've done a lot of research into it, learned a lot about it. And Danny Pudi, who plays Abed, did a phenomenal job portraying being on the spectrum, which isn't... Danny Pudi is not on the spectrum, but he did a great job portraying it. So throughout the show, I'll be bringing up moments of, like, I can kind of understand Abed, things he does from that perspective, and kind of giving my personal experience with him, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah. He, in the part that Wolfe is talking about, he kind of, like, just info dumps his whole life to Jeff and then introduces himself. And Jeff responds with, "Nice to know you," and then "meet you," in that order. And which is a great, great joke.
Such a great one.
But for Abed, personally, I can relate to that a lot because when I meet someone new, I have to hold in a lot because I want to open up and just share things. But I always forget that there's a social construct in the way to do that. You can't just get to know people immediately. You kind of level up in a way in your relationship. And I just get too excited. But that level of honesty that I have tends to scare a lot of people off. So Abed, just kind of info dumping is very relatable and it makes sense for someone on the spectrum.
Yeah. And I'll also disclose that I'm on the spectrum as well. But the difference is Brennan's known for years and years. I've only known for a couple of months. And so I've had to go through life without knowing like that I had it. And I mean, I definitely had the symptoms before I was diagnosed, which that's why I was diagnosed. But anyway, so I could definitely relate to that a bit too, just with the whole like wanting to like info dump. But I think because I've not known I was autistic and that people communicated differently, I learned that the hard way. And so now like my natural response is to just not info dump. It's almost like a chess game, like trying to figure out what questions you ask when you're getting to know someone.
Exactly. And that's the hardest part because, like, I'm not good at social situations at all. Like, you know this from experience, Wolf. Experiencing me, I should say. I'm not good in social situations. I don't do body language and all that. So, like, growing up, I would info dump, and then I'd be confused as to why people would walk away. And so I'd just start following them and keep talking. Just like Abed did to Jeff.
Yes.
Jeff started walking. And Abed just kept going and was like, I think at that point he was talking about how his dad wasn't a threat to national security or anything. A lot of people want to know that when they know he's angry or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a great joke.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was very, very well done by Danny Pudi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the script writers, too, I think, captured it really well.
Yes. And I believe Dan Harmon is on this spectrum as well. I think he like self-diagnosed after writing Abed because he saw a lot of himself in Abed's character, so he went and got tested, I think. It might have been Dan Harmon. It might have been someone else on the crew, but I remember hearing that somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'll look into that because I'd be curious to know about that.
Yeah, check it actually.
Also, while we're at this like intro with Jeff and Abed, like Jeff's outfit is so clearly in like the early stages of planning. Like, they gave him sweatpants with a blazer. Like, what kind of combination is that? Especially if you know Jeff's character later on. He, like, prides himself in how he dresses and how he looks. And, like, the outfit he has in the pilot is not that at all.
Absolutely not. I didn't notice it till you pointed it out to me over text. But yes, it is. It's atrocious.
And it's, like, every time I go back to the pilot after watching the rest of the show, it's kind of jarring, actually.
Yeah, it's a very off-putting thing now that I've noticed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's even a later episode where he is back in that outfit to try and show like, oh, I don't care. But he intentionally picked that outfit to show that he doesn't care.
I mean, like, you know, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Because he doesn't care in this first episode. He's just there to get a degree.
That's true.
As quick as possible. So it makes sense, but it also doesn't. You know? I don't know. This is just me fansplaining why he has that.
Yeah.
But
and the show's creators and costume department were definitely still figuring things out. Like,
yeah.
Really the only consistent costumes, I think, after the pilot would have been, I think, Abed, Troy, and Annie and Shirley. So actually most of the study group.
I mean, minus the Dean's eccentric outfits. He's always in that nasty mustard yellow.
That's true. They got him spot on first try and have not looked back.
Yes. Yeah. I remember hearing on the Darkest Timeline podcast, they had him on as a guest. I forget his actual name. But he talked about how like Jeff's wardrobe cart was like just full, and he had 2 mustard yellow shirts on his, and that was it. And I love that. Like every week it was a different costume, obviously, that he put on later. His like intro costumes, I should say.
Yeah.
But his base costume, he had 2 shirts, in the same pair of pants.
Oh my gosh.
So, which is amazing.
Yes.
And so, skipping back just for a little bit, I looked it up, and it actually, Dan Harmon realized that he had symptoms and behaviors commonly associated with autism while researching Abed. And after consulting with a doctor, he was concluded that he was on the spectrum. So yeah, that did happen.
So he is
that
on the
wasn't
spectrum
me just
then.
imagining things. Yes.
Oh, that makes sense why I like Community so much.
Yep. And Rick and Morty as well, because he was the showrunner for that.
That's true, he was.
Yeah.
One of the gags I think is pretty funny is early on when Jeff is talking to Ian Duncan. This is shortly after he's talked to Abed and gotten info on Britta. He's going to Professor Duncan's office to get the test answers, or the answers to every test, and basically cheat his way through community college. And he's like, yeah, so I got disbarred because I have a fake degree. And Ian Duncan, he's saying, oh, I thought you got a degree from Columbia. And Jeff goes, now I have to get one from America.
And it can't be an email attachment.
Yes. And why I find that so
was...
funny is because Columbia is both a country and an Ivy League in the U.S.
Yes. I actually had that written down under quotes in my notes to talk about, because that's just such an amazing line.
Yes. And something else I noticed too, the title sequence is different than the rest of the series.
Yes. Yeah.
The title card for the pilot just gives very much 2000s web series intro.
It very much does, yeah.
It's just the name Community, showing up, random letters just popping up around the screen, then coming together in, impact font, which is meme font now.
Yes.
It's this is clearly, not the title card that's gonna stick for the series, hopefully. And then it didn't, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And they had that amazing song in the fortune teller thingy that you make in elementary school.
Yes, in the proper intro.
Yes. Yeah.
The one they introduce in, I think, the second episode.
I believe it's the second, yeah. Anyways, so should we just talk about general trivia and funny moments? Just kind of read off what we have?
Yeah, we could do that.
All right. So I'm trying to decide what my favorite part of the episode is. I have 8 different funny moments in general trivia. Oh, kind of connecting camp and this. Remember when Jeff comes back in and kind of gives that whole speech and tells everyone to look to the person to the left and apologize?
The turn left speech, yeah.
Yeah, and says, look to the left and apologize to the person sitting next to you or whatever. Yeah. And Pierce says something else to Troy, and Jeff catches him and he says, Pierce, you need to apologize. And Shirley goes, he didn't say it? Reminded me so much of camp. Campers being nosy when one of the other campers had to be talked to.
I
just got
that. Yeah,
first through third grade vibes.
Yes.
The amount of times that happened.
I have that quote written down as well, where I think I noticed it on this rewatch when I watched it yesterday, when I saw her just quietly say, he didn't say it.
Yes.
I caught that this time, and I've seen the show however many times, and I just now caught
Which
that.
is a great thing about the show. You rewatch it and you notice something new every time.
Yes.
So for those who don't know, the Russo brothers also worked on this show, and for those of you who don't know who they are, they're responsible for most of the MCU, including Endgame and Infinity War. So very big names now. Which there was an interview I saw on the Darkest Timeline podcast where they had Joe on, I believe. And his thing was, he said something along the lines of the community show, their pacing was intentionally fast because every time you watch it, you're going to pick up something new. That was their goal, which is a very interesting take. 'Cause a lot of television nowadays kind of babies you into it and explains everything. And it does the tell, don't show, instead of the other way around.
Yeah.
Which, part of what I enjoy about old shows is it shows you, it doesn't tell you.
Yes.
And then and they pack so much into such a short amount of time that you're always noticing something new. There's a new joke, there's a new funny thing in the background. I think later in the show, Abed's in the background helping someone give birth, has his own little side adventure throughout the entire episode.
Yes.
Which I didn't notice till my last watch through. So, which is amazing.
It's fantastic. And
yeah.
whenever they're in that argument
Yes.
in the study room in the pilot, you could just hear Troy yell, "I am the Barack Obama of this group." Which I'm like,
Yes,
what does
that
he
I have
mean
that.
by that? Like,
I have that one written down as well.
like what? Why is he the Barack Obama of the group? Like,
I think another amazing moment, which I found hysterical because, like, like we said, I was diagnosed with Asperger's, not autism, because autism wasn't, or Asperger's was separate when I was diagnosed. Now it's all the same on the spectrum, whatever. But Troy and Pierce laughing at the name Asperger's will never cease to make me laugh. Because that was my exact reaction. I was diagnosed when I was 5, and when I got it, I refused to say what the diagnosis was because it had a bad word in it. Like, I, 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 I would say I have the burger thing.
the burger thing.
Yeah, that was so that joke makes me laugh every time.
Yes. Well, I feel like even though it's like named after someone, I feel like it's not a name you can take seriously for a
Yeah.
disease. Well, I'm so glad that like it's
Absolutely
outdated
not.
now and that it's all just autism
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't know if I could even take myself seriously with that diagnosis.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I always said I have autism. I always said I'm on the spectrum. Like, I've always said that. But because in this episode it has Abed being Asperger's, that's what I was originally diagnosed with. Tomato, tomato. It's that kind of thing.
Yep. And that moment too I have written down not just as like a funny moment, but as a interesting character moment too, because that's the first time we really see Pierce and Troy buddying up. And you can see the original vision for the show there where they're trying to like get Pierce and Troy to be like a pair. Just like how earlier in the episode they're pairing up Abed with Jeff.
Yeah.
And that's like a lot of season 1 they're kind of like making those pairs together, even though later on, like if you've seen the show, you know who ends up being the dynamic duo, but I won't spoil it for people who aren't that far.
Yeah. Our intro is actually a little hint at that.
This is true.
So
it is a reference.
Yeah. Yes, the name of our podcast is a reference.
Which is fantastic, and so is the logo too, which I designed myself in off.
It is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I designed it in off-brand Photoshop. So,
and then we've got our So we're recording this on Discord, and so when we created our little Discord server, I used the study group preset, and then I've renamed our voice channel Spanish 101, and what was it originally, but I renamed it to the Save Greendale Committee, which if you've seen the later seasons, you know what that means.
Yep.
But it's just we're huge nerds and fans of this show, so we're making as many jokes about it as we can and making it fit our little podcast.
Yes.
So
going back to like those character moments, like because I think those are neat, and then we
Yes.
can go into more of those quotes. But
yes,
Ian Duncan at first. You see, like, they're trying to make him, like, he pretends to be about integrity, but he'll easily cower when confronted. And even when he eventually gives Jeff the test answers, they're fake, so he's, like, being all slimy about it. So it kind of gives us a grasp of who this character is, too. Although I think the DUI that he went to court for really, like, sets that tone initially. But it's just funny to see him, like, pretend to be about integrity so much in this episode. Alongside his other more slimy, like, kind of sus characteristics.
Yeah.
Which are exaggerated later on.
Yeah, he tries to be good, but doesn't really know how to go. He's not set in his ways, if that makes sense. Like, he wants to be good, and he is good, but he's not strong-willed.
Yeah.
So
Jeff easily intimidates him.
Yeah, like Jeff said, a 6-year-old girl could talk to you like that.
Yes.
And I very much so.
Yeah, and Jeff is so right about being above him on the pecking order. Like, he literally just flinches forward to get Ian Duncan to, like, cower and give his keys back to Jeff.
Yep. Like, speaking of the 6-year-old girl could treat you this way, there's a pecking order. Like, my cousin, who is currently 6, could easily wipe the floor with Duncan.
Yes.
Yeah, my 6-year-old little cousin could easily cower this man.
Yes.
So it's a very accurate line.
Oh, absolutely. Some final character moments while I'm thinking about it. So the casting in the pilot is excellent. The casting for the show is excellent,
Yes.
I should say. Like, especially in the pilot, they are already comfortable in their roles, they feel like. And they
Yes.
grow into that
Yes.
even more as the time goes on. Like,
Yeah.
it seems like they've been playing these characters for a long time, but it's only the first episode. And it only gets better
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah, they do. Like, it really shows how good of actors and actresses they are. The fact that they get along that well the first day.
Yes, and I think,
Well,
too,
it may not be the first day, but the
for the first, like,
Yeah.
shooting, yeah. And I think
yeah.
that, like, too, like, it helps that, like, I think part of it is the actors and the writing too, but these characters are well established in who they are early on. Like, Jeff is the clear leader.
Yes.
Shirley's the mom of the group. Annie is the uptight, smart one. Abed's the nerd. Troy is sporty but aloof, and Pierce is kind of an old creep.
Yeah.
And Britta, like, it's funny, she seems the most sane out of the group.
She does at the beginning.
She does at the
yeah.
beginning, but obviously, like, how we're talking about her being sane at the beginning shows that she's not later on. Like, she she definitely tries to, like, portray herself as sane, but I think that we could talk about this later on too when we actually see it happening. But I think Britta is relaxing more as a person around her friends and is more comfortable.
Yes.
But I think Gillian Jacobs, who plays Britta, is also like growing more comfortable and letting more of herself show in the character as time goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a very, very well done job on all of their parts. They do such a phenomenal job of portraying their characters, and it's very believable. Like, there's a lot of sitcoms where you can tell it's a TV show, you know? Like, you can tell they're actors acting.
Yeah.
But with this one, it feels so real, you kind of forget it's a TV show sometimes.
Yes, I would have to agree with that. Like, it just feels so natural. And yeah, like,
Yeah.
they get into some weird shenanigans that definitely, like, aren't going to happen in real life. But even within those, it still feels real.
Yes, very much so.
All right, did you have, like, other funny quotes and moments from the episode? Because I've gone through all my notes.
Yeah. All right. I've got a few more. So when it's just Jeff, Britta, and Abed in the study room, before Jeff leaves and Abed invites the rest of the group, Abed says something about how they're gonna open up and share emotional moments from their lives or whatever. Britta asks, "Do you have something welled up inside you?" And Abed, just with a stray face, goes, "Oh yeah, a little doozy in the chamber if things get emotional."
Yes, that moment's so good. Like, he talks about like the Breakfast Club having issues balled up inside of them, and then the way Britta says, "Do you have something balled up inside of you?" That gets me every time.
Yeah, she's like, she's genuinely concerned for him, and then his just like, "I got a doozy in the chamber."
Yes,
just off the cuff. Like, it's very, very accurate for someone on the spectrum to express emotions differently than everyone else.
yes, I would have to agree with that.
People on the spectrum often seem cold and emotionally numb, when in reality we just have different ways of expressing our emotions. We don't do facial cues that well and all that stuff. So, like, it's very fitting.
Yeah, and that's a good point, actually, because we show emotions differently. So I have to remember that. And anytime like Christmas or birthdays, I have to, like, realize, oh, I need to show stronger reactions to like these gifts. I want because I want people to know that I appreciate the gifts. I just don't express it that way, like the way most people do. So for years, that's how I've always done it, and that's definitely a masking trait of mine. And I've talked to my girlfriend and my mom about this too, actually, about how like I have to, like, try to show emotion in a typical way.
Yep. Yeah. Like, so Wolfe, like you said, you recently got diagnosed, so you're learning about all that.
Yeah.
Like, for me personally, I'm gonna be 24 next month, so for 19 years of my life, I've been practicing showing emotion. So at this point, it's kind of almost second nature. I still have to put a little bit of effort in,
Well, I mean, it's almost second nature for me too, because I simply didn't know I was diagnosed, so I didn't have the I just didn't have the language for it until now, but it definitely was second nature for me, especially growing up without that diagnosis being expected to be more normal. Kind of forced me to be and forced me to mask, and also like basic, but I just didn't have the language to describe it until recently.
Yeah. Like, for those of you who don't know what masking is a thing that people on the spectrum do knowingly or unknowingly to mask certain parts of ourselves to make us fit into the rest of society. So like Wolf's saying, his masking is by purposefully showing more emotion. That's a masking thing. So that's what that means for those of you who don't know.
Yeah.
And then a few other funny moments. But most of them are Abed.
That makes sense.
Abed reading the text out loud when Jeff texts him, say you have to pee, I need to talk to you. And then Abed just reads it out loud. It's like, that's so weird. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, also just him being like, oh, this is fun. I don't think anyone's ever texted me before, or something along those lines. He's just excited to get a text.
Yeah, he's like, let's give this bad boy a read.
And then when Jeff gets his text, he immediately is asking, oh, does it say the same thing?
Yeah. And he was the one that texted him. Wait, no, it was Duncan that texted him. Never mind. And then Abed at the very end, when they all are doing like motions to get Jeff back inside, trying to convince Britta, Abed is just like looking at them confused and goes, am I deaf? Can you guys hear me?
I love that moment. There's so many great moments in this episode.
Yes. Yeah. All right. And then I've got two more, and then we're all set. One thing I liked about how they kind of began the episode and wrapped up the episode was when Jeff says, I see your value now. Abed goes, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. And that's at the beginning. And then at the end, they switch that to where Abed says, I see your value now. And Jeff says, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Yes.
Like, that was the amazing way to start the episode and end it and make it seem connected, if that makes sense.
It, like, bookends the episode.
Yeah. Yes. It was very clever writing on their part.
I would agree with that. And it's not like... Because sometimes bookends, they come off a little more cheesy and like, okay, like they're referencing the thing earlier. But I think it fits in this moment.
Yes. Yes, it very much does. Like, it doesn't feel forced. It feels like a very natural thing.
Yeah.
And then the last one is when Duncan blackmails Jeff out of his car for the test answers and then gives him his own car. Says, you can take this car, it's good for the earth. And Jeff going, yeah, well, so is wiping a butt with a leaf, but it's not how a man gets around.
Yes.
Perfect. That made me laugh hard.
Oh, yeah.
Again, like, this episode is just full of comedy gold moments, and it's only the first episode.
Absolutely. Like, when I go back and watch this, I'm always shocked at how much comedy there is. Like, there's a couple other moments I remember. Like, whenever the only name Pierce gets right is Shirley's.
Yep.
Like, Roy the Wonder Boy, Abed the Arab. Yeah. He does keep on mispronouncing Abed as Abed.
Yeah.
Brittles for Britta.
Yeah, what did he call Annie?
Like Little Princess Elizabeth, I think.
Yeah, it was something like that.
And then...
It wasn't even close.
And then, he gets Shirley, and Jeff's like, is that close? And she's like, yeah. And, like, the fact that, like, the whole bit there where he doesn't realize he's sexually harassing her because he's like, why would I harass you? Like, why would I harass someone who turns me on?
Yeah, and Troy going, that is the harassment, dude.
Yes, which I think that's just so funny. I think that's Pierce's character is basically just the things he said, like, are funny because you know they're messed up. The writers know it's messed up. The characters are acknowledging it's messed up. Like, they're not, he's not like, it's not like, I don't think it's a reflection of the writers being sexist or anything.
No, and it gets him in trouble throughout the show. Like, I think he gets kicked out of the study group multiple times.
Yeah. That checks out.
I know it's at least once, if not multiple.
Yeah, it's at least...
And then,
I think it's at least twice.
Yeah, he's always the outcast of the group where they rip on him because he brings it upon himself by saying all these awful things.
Yeah. But
for, like, being serious, not comedy. Like, his character, he's being serious about a lot of what he says.
And part of it is, I think, like, part of it is just being an out-of-touch old man, but that can't excuse everything, I don't think.
Like, I'm politically incorrect for comedy. Like, it's funny to see people overreact to certain things, you know?
Yeah, but it's more ironic, I think, in your case.
Yeah.
Like, you don't actually believe those things.
Yes, I do it ironically. Yes, I do it ironically.
Pierce is unironic.
Yeah. Pierce believes what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other moment I saw that was interesting, and this is another, like, kind of messed up thing that someone says. It's actually not Pierce, it's actually Jeff that says this. It's whenever, like, Britta's like, so you just made this, like, study group just to get a shot into my pants, and then he's like, why can't you take that for the compliment that it is?
Oh, I forgot about that, yeah.
That moment is just so funny, and if you had said that to anyone in real life, you would be getting slapped so hard.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's just so funny for that reason, and she, like, her reaction's just unbelievable. I'm like, what? No! Like, Jeff's being a creep, like, there's no way around it.
Yeah. That's when you need to kick him in the balls.
Yes.
Yeah. And it would be perfectly justified, because that's extremely creepy.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, that's part of the reason why I understand why some people do get turned off in the pilot. Because I know a common complaint I've seen is, like, Jeff. Like, just how abrasive and kind of, like, creepy and stuff he is. Like, he's not a good person in the pilot. But I've explained to my friends who I've introduced to the show, and I thought that would be a concern. I would tell them, hey, there's this character, Jeff. He's a total douchebag at the beginning. But he grows as a character, and he'll, like, grow on you. Like, he's not going to stay that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't be a character if he didn't grow.
Exactly.
Like, everyone has to have a fatal flaw that they grow out of. That's what makes a character interesting.
Yeah. Although I do understand if people are turned off by certain characters' fatal flaws over others. Which is also why I explain, like, he's not going to be like this forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I forget what the recent Last Airbender remake. So, like we said, we're nerds, so we're going to compare it to other nerdy shows.
Yes.
But, like, the main complaint for that show was Sokka wasn't sexist. And that was, like, one of his big character growth moments in the original.
Yeah.
Now, I can see why, in today's political culture and all that, why they couldn't do that. It makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, they did include it in a different way. Like, instead of more being outright, he was like, I'm in charge, Katara. Like, I'm the leader. And, like, you saw that abrasiveness more come out. And that, maybe not quite sexism, but he's still got that, like, arrogance and, like it's almost like it's almost adjacent to his sexism in the original show without being the exact same thing.
Yeah, like if he said what he said in the original, people would have lost their minds.
I mean, unless they were fans of the show and they knew.
Well, yes, but I think I personally liked the remake. I'm a huge fan of the original, but I wasn't expecting the original.
Yeah, that's where I was too. I also really liked the remake as well. I know
it also helped I watched the live-action movie right before the show came out to prepare myself.
I don't know how you've seen that multiple times, because the one time that you showed me is the only time I've watched it, and I refuse to touch it again.
Oh, no, I'm a fan of awful movies, so I will watch those movies to make fun of them all the time.
There's only one movie that I think was worse than the Last Airbender movie, and that was Cats.
See, I have not watched that one, because
it's creepy.
I can't. Yeah,
like,
I can't watch that one.
Whenever I watched it with my friends, and none of us were enjoying it. Like, we were all watching it to make fun of it. But at the end, it was just so bad. I fell off the couch, curled up into the fetal position, and just screamed out how awful this movie was.
So, I actually have a camper quote for you, Wolf, from camp.
Okay.
Where it has to do with cats. I think this happened in, like, the 2 weeks camp opened up during COVID. One of my campers, we were walking to an activity, and he just out of the blue goes, you know, I think God judged us with coronavirus because we made the movie Cats. And just kept walking like nothing happened.
Oh my gosh.
I just kind of, I stopped, thought about it, and I started laughing, and I had to catch up with the cabin.
That kid is so wise.
was such an amazing moment. Like, yeah. Anyways,
Oh my
thought
gosh.
thought you'd appreciate that.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Campers are hilarious.
The out of pocket stuff they say.
Yes.
I've got like from the 3 years I was there, I've got like over 100 quotes written down.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, some of them don't make any sense, and I forgot why I wrote them down. Like they were very situational.
Yeah.
But they're funny out of situation too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Should we get into some trivia? I've got some. I know you've got some written down as well.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. So I'll start, and all my trivia is just taken from the community wiki, so anyone can look that up at any time. Okay. I'm paraphrasing, of course. I don't want to plagiarize it all, but I'm just letting you all know where I got it from. So first one is, in the original script, Jeff's last name was actually Crocker, not Winger.
Interesting.
Yeah, and thank goodness they changed it. Like, Jeff Crocker, like, what? Like,
yeah. Like, I like the change because he does wing a lot of his speeches.
That's true. Oh, I never made that connection. Like, he's literally winging it. That's his whole thing. Like, he wings everything in life.
He's winging community college.
He's winging community college. He's winging his speeches. He was winging it in the courtrooms, too.
Yeah, that's what he did as a lawyer. He just winged it.
So I didn't even realize it until you brought that up, but his name is almost a pun, but it fits his character, and like I feel like Jeff Winger is a better sounding name than Jeff Crocker.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it flows off the tongue better. Jeff Winger.
Yeah.
The next one I've got is the cafeteria lady, who Brennan doesn't remember, and some viewers of the show may not even know because she only appears in the DVD version, actually had recurring appearances throughout the episode, instead of just the one wherever she has Jeff pay for his damn tacos. But that was the only scene that they kept in. I think everything else was either deleted or not even filmed.
Like I said, I don't know who this lady is. I haven't seen that part of the episode. When I get my DVD set, I will sit down and watch it.
Yes, I was about to say, like, once you get the DVD set, you have to rewatch the pilot and just kind of see the differences.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that, Walmart.
Yeah.
Anyway. So I've only got one piece of general trivia that I haven't covered already, and it was more of an observation from my part.
Yeah.
The first few times I watched the show, I never understood why Pierce just kind of like made himself a hot dog, then shoved it back into the bread. I had to look up.
Wait, why does he do that?
Because he grabs the ketchup bottle and like sprays the ketchup onto it, but mustard comes out. So that whoever mixed up the bottles, they put mustard in the ketchup bottle and ketchup in the mustard bottle. So he didn't want mustard on it, so he just kind of shoves it back in there.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I always thought he's just being a kooky old man.
No. Which, that's also an amazing, like, that would fit his character as well, but...
That's funny, actually. I never noticed that. I have a few...
So that's the only piece of trivia I haven't talked about yet.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I have a few other pieces I got, and I won't go over the differences between the Syndicate and DVD cut, because we've already talked about that. Okay. That was part of my trivia as well. Mm-hmm. But in the pilot, there's a couple references to Joel McHale's show, The Soup, which he was hosting while filming Community, actually.
Oh, wow.
And so whenever he talks about how Abed's a shaman, and whenever you ask him for the salt, he gives you soup because soup is better.
That always confused me.
It's because he hosts the show called The Soup.
That's amazing. That's always confused me.
Yeah, and whenever Troy calls him Seacrest, Joel McHale makes fun of Seacrest all the time on The Soup, apparently. So that was another little nod, but also apparently Joel McHale looks like a more taller, handsome version of Ryan Seacrest.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next piece of trivia I have is that Britta could not have been a part of the Peace Corps, because whenever she introduces herself to Jeff, like, he asks her what her deal is, and she says, so I was in the Peace Corps, I dropped out of high school to follow Radiohead. I don't think that was in the syndicated version, so I don't know if you've seen that part.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, so she talks about being in the Peace Corps, which she dropped out of high school, so she doesn't have a college degree. The Peace Corps requires a minimum of a bachelor's degree for acceptance as a volunteer. In most positions, but the ones that they have non-degree positions for, Britta wouldn't be qualified. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, how are you in the Peace Corps? Like, how, when she says her deal is honesty, I'm like, how honest are you really? Well, I mean, she does admit that she was lying later in the episode, but I almost wonder if she was lying about the Peace Corps too. Or if the writers just made a goof.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, knowing Britta's character, I wouldn't be surprised if she wanted to be in the Peace Corps so much she just kind of believed she was.
Or like just told people she was.
Yeah, told people she was for the image. Because a lot of her character is for the image.
Yeah.
Which Pierce really gets her to admit during his like fake death later on in this show.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah. So I bet it was her saying she was for the image.
Yeah, that makes sense for her.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit more of that aspect of her character showing in the pilot earlier than we would have expected.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next piece I have is that the pilot was dedicated in memory of John Hughes, who directed the Breakfast Club. And of course, if you've seen the pilot, you know they reference it several times throughout, with Abed even doing a quote from the Breakfast Club.
Yep. Which is a wonderful part.
Yep. So I thought it was nice that they dedicated it to that director.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, so that's all the trivia I have. So the next segment, it's super short, but later on in the show, I'll explain it first. So we want to rate each episode based on how much we like it, and it's on a scale of 1 to 5 meow meow beans. Because if you've seen a later season of the show, there's an episode where they actually rate each other, like rate the students and staff at the school on a scale of 1 to 5 meow meow beans on this app called Meow Meow Beans. Yeah. And so I think, the way I'm kind of organizing my score is that a 5 favorite episode, and that can be given to a few. So like one of the favorite episodes, that's 5. I think a 4 would be great. A 3 would be good. Like, it's not bad by any means, but it doesn't have the greatness that some other episodes have. I think a 2 would be, it's okay. Like, there are good moments. And then 1 is like, I don't like this episode. I think that scale makes sense. So I would personally give the pilot a 3. Like, I think it's good. I think it's a good introduction to the show, but I don't think it's like, doesn't quite have the greatness that later episodes have, but it has so much that is still good. That is why, like, I almost feel bad giving it a 3. Like, I feel like if I could give it a 3.5, I could.
I actually had 3.5 written down.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, so points are not a thing. Okay, so, yeah, I would say 3 as well then. They set it up so well. The characters are you instantly know what the character is about. Like, they do such a good job of setting up their character in such a short amount of time. Like, even the dean, he gets, like, what?
Just that opening sequence.
Just a minute of screen time, and you already can tell what kind of who his character is.
Yes.
I've mentioned this a lot. If you can't tell already, Abed is my favorite character. But Abed nails it, or Danny Pudi nails it as Abed.
Yes.
His performance, I think, is the best out of the first season, or the first episode. I think he did the best job portraying his character.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would give it a 3 out of 5 as well.
And I think also why I give it a 3 is because there are so many episodes later on that I want to put, that I feel like deserve a 4, and definitely ones that deserve a 5.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But I have a feeling most episodes are going to be like a 3 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah, like I can think of one off the bat where I'm going to give it a 1. But
I'll be curious to see which one that is.
Beyond that, I can't think of an episode that would get a 1 besides that singular episode.
Yeah, I don't know.
So besides that episode, I think the lowest score I'm going to give is a 2.
That's fair. I think that makes sense. Like,
I'm going to have a hard time not giving a lot of 5s.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to try my best to reserve 5s for like my absolute favorite episodes. Like the ones that I will go rewatch without doing a complete run of the series.
Yeah. So actually, little fun fact that I remembered just now, camp related and community related. I think it was during Xenos week. No, it wasn't. No. Yeah, it was during Xenos week. So after like camp kind of shuts down, you know, like the counselor are done for the day. There was a group of us who would go to the lodge where we would do the, like, with the stage and the little music area, you know. You know what I'm talking about, Wolf? You know where that is?
Yeah, I remember that.
We actually watched all of the paintball episodes of Community in there.
Where was I when this happened?
I think you went somewhere for the week. I think you went home or something I think it was during Xenos.
Was it like 2019?
Or maybe? No, it was 2020, so it was only my pod.
Because we were in the same pod in 2020.
You're right. It was at some point.
is at some point, and I
I
wasn't
remember
there.
doing it.
If it
Yes.
could have been Xenos week,
Yeah.
because I do remember
Yeah.
I did have to leave for part of the evening because I think it was like my sister's birthday party or something. So I was able to get
It
part of the
might have-
evening off. So I think
It might have been that.
that might have been it, because I know some of us were
Yeah.
gonna watch the new Loki episode together. I don't think that ended up happening.
Yes, it was during it because we did this instead of Loki.
Yeah, because you guys were watching that and waiting on me to show up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, that was it.
Yeah.
So we watched the first episode to give like people who haven't seen it before a reference to the characters, and then just watched all the paintball episodes.
That's awesome.
So, which those were, spoiler alert, those will be all of my 5s. They will. Those will get 5s. At least the season 2 finale will get 5s. I'm not sure about the first one. The first one was phenomenal, but we'll see. We'll see when we get there.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We got plenty of time to figure out our Meow Meow
Yeah.
Beans ratings.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, that's all I've got. If you've got anything else?
Just closing with a quote from Jeff. Remember, everyone, to extend the same compassion we extend to Sharks, Pencil, and Ben Affleck to everyone you meet this week. Have a great week.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm stumbling over so many words.
You're good, man. Hey, it adds a bit of relatability between us and the audience.
That's true.
We're not perfect either. So
That's true. We're not perfect, and we're definitely not professionals at this.
absolutely not. This is my first podcast, so this is be an adventure for me and for the listener. So
Yeah. And this is my first official podcast that I've done. Like, I've only ever done podcasts for school assignments. So